Hey guys, welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio. I'm your host for this episode, Ryan Rieger, and today I'm chatting with our good friend Neil Stevens. He's one of our awesome moderators here in our My Silent Team Facebook group of 60,000 plus people. Isn't that incredible? But Neil has tons of amazing wisdom for us in this episode. He's actually been on before, but he talks a little bit today about his story, how he got started selling Bible covers on eBay, and he has now grown a very successful Amazon business and keeps outgrowing his space. So listen to my interview with Neil. It's a good one. This is What's Your Story, and we just dig into people's stories. Nothing informal or nothing formal, very informal, just like we're hanging out at a coffee shop chatting with Neil. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free to post them. Appreciate you being on with us in the afternoon. And Neil, thanks for jumping on 8 p.m. your time, right?
It is, yes. Yeah, right now.
How's Q4 going for you?
Sorry?
How is Q4 going for you so far?
It's good, yes. No, I'm very pleased with it. I set some fairly ambitious targets after the sort of sales increases earlier in the year. And it looks like we're on target for those. I think November we're going to hit, so I've got to do an extra big push for December. Just looking, I think last year was pretty good and I was quite pleased with it. Obviously, when we had our first lockdown, March, April, May this year, sales just went through the roof. And just looking at this year's, I think we're about 250% up on this time last year.
Wow.
Which is quite amazing.
250%.
Yeah. So
wow.
I'm quite pleased with that. I'm obviously overheads have gone up as we're talking about.
Just a little bit pleased.
Yeah, but that's good. I can cope with that.
Oh my gosh! Did you set a goal for Q4 this year at all, or how does that work? How do you do goal setting?
Yeah, I do. I mean, last year I had some sort of fairly ambitious goals, which although the figures were good, I didn't quite get as much as I was hoping to. I mean, maybe I was stretching myself a little bit with just the resources we had at the time. So I'm always a bit cautious about setting sort of rigid goals or being too specific, although I know it's good sometimes. But this year, as we were coming into it, I was looking at the figures from earlier in the year, and I just felt, well, what I'd like to do, I want to hit, there's that sort of magical 100,000 a month. £100,000 is more than $100,000, but it's still a significant thing. So in October, we got to just under £60,000. October, so we just fell short. In November, I wanted to do 80,000, and if I could hit 100,000 in December, I'd be very happy.
Totally can, yeah. Wow.
So that's kind of just it's a lot up on last year, but then the market's changed, life's changed, and thankfully we've been able to capitalise on all that's been going on, tough as it has been in many respects. To gain the whole industry of online selling, as we all know, has just skyrocketed. I think earlier in the year I was saying it was probably launched just 2 or 3 years ahead of where we probably would have been naturally.
Wow. My gosh.
Yeah, so I'm going for the big 100K month for December. So I keep thinking, well, that means I've got to spend a lot of money. And well, I don't have a problem spending money. When you suddenly started talking massive figures, you're thinking, oh my goodness.
Just for a reference, those of you that are watching, 100,000 pounds is about 132,000 US dollars. So that's a serious number. That's awesome. Neil, tell me, let's go back to you when you got started selling online. When did that happen? What was this circumstances surrounding that? How'd you even get into this business?
Yeah, it really does seem a lifetime away, and in a sense it was. Back in the sort of late 1990s, early 2000s, the internet thing was just starting, and you were hearing stories about people making loads of money on it and how easy it was and everything. And I looked at it and thought, wow, this looks good. It's exciting. I was quite into it. We were one of the first people to have, a proper, what was considered a computer. We had our old dial-up network where we had to plug it into the telephone line. So I had to work late at night because otherwise it cut off the telephone and nobody could phone us. We didn't have mobile phones very much then. And so back in the early days, it felt a bit like the Wild West. I started looking at all the sort of things that were going around then, sort of ebook marketing, affiliate marketing, Google AdWords. I tried most of those and didn't really get very far. Made a few dollars, pounds here and there, but really nothing that would signify a business. But I was determined. I saw the potential, and I just thought, here I am, in my little town in the south of England. Suddenly, I've got the whole world at my feet. The world is your oyster, as they were saying, and I thought there's got to be a way I can capitalise on this. So I said I tried lots and lots of things. The thing that really started to work was I started selling a few things on eBay.
Okay.
I sold a few sort of personal bits and pieces. That's probably sort of the late 1990s. And sort of as the turn of the millennium, I sort of looked at that a bit more seriously. One of the products that I found that I sold quite well was actually Bible covers. I'd been looking for one for myself personally and was shocked at how much they were in the shops. I thought, let's have a look on the internet. We'll find it. Where can I get it from? And I found quite a big company in the United States, I'm sure most people know about, that sell a lot of Christian merchandise, and they had some lovely Bible covers, and they had a sort of a clearance section, and they were $1 or $2. And I thought, this is crazy. Here I had to pay like £20 over here for one, and I can get it for $1 or $2. And I thought, obviously, you've got to pay shipping, which adds quite a lot to it. So I thought, well, it's not worth just buying one. I might as well, buy a few of them. So I think I put an order together for about 10 different Bible covers, 2 or 3 of each in different designs. And I thought, I can either see if I could sell them myself or give them away to presents for other people. So I waited. A few weeks later, the box turned up. I thought, these are actually really nice. So I was impressed with the quality. And I thought, let's see if we can sell them. So I put a couple of them up on eBay, and they sold. And I thought, this is good. I've actually sold something. I think turned my $1 plus shipping purchase, and I can't remember exactly what I sold them for, but about £10, and it was $12 to $15 or something. And I thought, this is good. So we tried it again. I ordered a few more the next time, and they sold. So I started looking around, and I bought a few other things because I was selling on eBay. Obviously, I was having to ship everything out myself. So I sort of restricted myself to smaller stuff. So I did some badges and some bookmarks and a few books I tried and Bibles, but they didn't go quite so well. But the smaller things and the Bible covers seemed to go well. And so gradually that business built up. And I became, I like to tell myself that I became the premium UK seller on eBay for Bible covers. Nobody could beat me. I had a good selection. I had sales coming in quite regularly for those. I was selling stuff most days. Again, not a huge amount because the market for that sort of merchandise is much smaller over here than it is in the States.
Sure.
We've got a few sort of big companies that have started sort of coming up and selling sort of Christian and religious stuff over here, but it's not as big a marketplace really as in America. But I was doing quite well, and I was selling consistently and looking around on eBay, there wasn't really anybody that was doing the same selection and quantity that I was. So I was quite proud of myself. Thought, hey, look, we're rocking and rolling here. This is moving.
And all of them were being sourced from the US?
Most of them, yes. I did find a couple of UK companies, a wholesaler that I met at a some Christian trade show. They did some that they'd imported themselves from China and things, and some from the States. So I started buying a few bits from them, and they did some other things, some crosses and stuff that I bought. So I started dealing with them as well. But most of it, I'm still getting these boxes arriving regularly from the States. The postman used to be quite bemused. Obviously, it's all just increased the number of packages that they sent them in. But they kept sending them in small boxes, I think, to try and get around problems with customs, which sometimes worked, sometimes didn't. So the postman would turn up with sort of, actually bring their van and they say, I've got 8 boxes for you today, I've got 10 boxes for you today. What are you doing with all this stuff? I said, we're going to be selling it. They were fascinated by it. So it was growing, and I was doing reasonably well with it. It never really got to the stage where I could say it was a sort of a real business that was supporting me. Obviously, I was still working at the time, and my wife's been working. She's a trained nurse, and she's always worked in the health industry. But it was a nice little side business, and what I used to say was it was paying for my online education, because alongside this, I was still looking at pretty much everything that came out, buying courses and things as we do the shiny object syndrome that we all get caught up with. I was looking at sort of things and saying there must be a way to make more money. I've got this crack, I've got the bug now. I know it works. I know there's potential there. There's got to be ways of making more money. So I was looking at all these sort of things that are coming out. So the profits from eBay tend to mostly get ploughed back into getting hosting and trying to build websites or buying a course showing me how to do this, that, the other. And it sort of ticked over steadily. I think in about 2007, I was just looking back, I did actually try Amazon first then. I thought, well, these are going well on eBay. Let's try Amazon. This was up and coming. Amazon was the next, great place. I'd read a couple of books and got a little course, I think, from somebody about selling on Amazon. And so I looked at it and so I thought, well, let's try it. So I put up one of the Bible covers that I was selling that I'd got on Amazon, because in those days you couldn't create listings yourself if you were a new seller. You could only jump on existing listings in the catalogue. But I found one listing for one of the Bible covers that was already there. So I jumped on that, put a couple up for sale and a few other bits and pieces. And I sold 2 of the same Bible cover, and actually it was to the same customer. They'd put 2 orders through for it. I thought, oh, this is good. And then I got the dreaded email from Amazon saying your customer service is not satisfactory. We're suspending your account. There's no appeal. You can't write back to us. You can't appeal this. And I said, what have I done? I looked at it, and the customer had left a 2-star rating because he said the size on the listing didn't match exactly the size of the cover they got.
Oh my gosh.
And I did try writing back to them saying, look, there's nothing I could do about it. That was what was on the listing. And it's the same product. It's just there must be a slight variation. But they wouldn't budge. And I kept trying to get my account opened again. I tried several times, and then I left it for 6 months. Then I left it for a year, and I left it a couple of years. And occasionally I'd just try and reignite it and see, because I was hearing all these stories about how well everybody else was doing on Amazon. So I went, oh, come on, I've got to let it back on. Anyway, it didn't seem to work. So I kept on with eBay and sort of looking at other things as well. Okay. Until we got to about 7 years later in 2014. I had an offer came through from a gentleman who I think some people may have heard of, called Jim Cochran. And he sent out, I was on his email list, and obviously I've been following his eBay strategies for quite a few years. And he sent out an offer offering the Proven Amazon course. And I think as a bonus, there was access to his sort of online forum, as it was before the Facebook page. And that's something I had looked at and I wanted to be involved in, because I had a lot of respect for Jim, and I liked a lot of the stuff he was talking about. And I'd sort of looked at it before, but I think it was about a $30 a month fee to register for it, and I just couldn't justify another outgoing on what I was making. So I hadn't done it. But this offer was for the Proven Amazon course, and as a bonus, you got lifetime access to his community. So I thought, oh, great. Well, I don't really want the Proven Amazon course because I can't use it, but it's worth, I think it was $97 or something, to get access to the community. And I knew there was a lot of material in there, a lot of other things, and just a chance to hang out with people that understood what I was talking about, that spoke the same language. Because lovely as my wife and my family and my friends are, none of them understood what it was about, and they just thought I was, going into my crazy mode. Staying up in the early hours of the morning, looking at all these harebrained schemes and getting absolutely nowhere. They didn't see the potential that I could see. They didn't have the vision and the excitement about it. So to be able to join a community with like-minded people was almost just an oasis for me.
Yeah.
I bought the Proven Amazon course not because I wanted that at all, but because I wanted access to the community, and so I got in there, and that was great. And as it came, I started looking through the Proven Amazon course, and I watched a couple of, had some introductory videos. And I thought, well, it does look really good. It's such a shame that, I got banned, and I think it's really unfair, and, it's not right. And, why won't they let me back in? So I thought, well, let's just try one more time. So I clicked on, so I had a buying account. So I clicked on the little thing that says sell on Amazon, which has always taken me to, no, you're banned, go away. And this time it said, fill in this form. So I filled it in, and it accepted me. And I thought,
nice.
That's just so bizarre, and the timing was just incredible. So 2014 was I actually got my Amazon account up and running, and I sent in a box full, probably about the March, I think it was. In fact, it was just before it was June, because it's just before we went on a trip out to Zambia in Africa. We were going on a mission trip to see some charities that we were supporting. And foolishly, I sent the box out about 2 days before we left the country. I thought, well, it will all sort itself out, and I can have a look at it when I come back. Well, while I was away, I actually got my first few sales. I did actually get a query from a customer, and so trying to find an internet in the middle of Zambia, which didn't have very good internet connection, to answer this customer query before it got too late was quite a challenge. But I came back and we'd sold a few bits. I sort of sent a few more bits in, and gradually over that year, I wouldn't say I built it up massively, but it ticked over. I was still doing eBay. I was starting to sell a few bits on Amazon then. We got to this strange thing that was called Q4 that I had no idea being a I didn't know what Q4 was. But it sounded fun. Everybody was raving about it. Whether it was just some sort of party or whether it was, something special. So we sort of came up to that, and I looked at it, obviously, for Christmas people will be buying things, won't they? So I sold a bit more over Q4 that first year, but wasn't really into it in a big way.
Yeah.
But then really from there, I think, particularly at that time, some of the things that I did sell at Christmas, I just realised there is so much potential, because I was buying things literally in one of we had a Poundland shop where everything cost £1. It's like a dollar store, but it's £1. And I was buying things in there for £1 and sending them in and selling them for £5, £6, £7.
Yeah. And
I thought, this is great. My wife was saying, this is crazy. Why do people do that? Why would they? I said, I don't really care, but they do. And it worked. And I think that sort of showed me. And also, I think that one of the things that sort of showed my wife that there is a potential here, because you're fulfilling a need. You're providing a service. Yes, everybody could go to Poundland and buy it themselves, but not everybody has a Poundland. Not everybody wants to go out shopping. Not everybody can do that. Particularly at Christmas, some of the things we were selling, like advent calendars and sort of gifts selections. I sort of realised a lot of people were sending, grandmas were sending them all over the country to their grandchildren, or aunts to their nieces and nephews, or chocolates were being sent to friends and things. And I thought, actually, it's providing a service for people, and once you add up all the costs that it would cost you to do it, it's not actually such a ridiculous price.
Right.
So that sort of lit the spark, really, I think, in sort of that first before in 2014, and really it started growing from there. I think being part of that community, it sort of then moved onto the Facebook page, which is the My Silent team now, that we all know and love, and that has grown incredibly.
Yes, it has.
I don't know how many it was when we first sort of started there, but it was sort of certainly in the low thousands, maybe hundreds.
Yeah.
And it sort of grew from there. So, I wouldn't say I was particularly active in there, but I kept sort of watching and seeing things that are going on.
Well, now you're one of our moderators there, aren't you?
So I'm part of the leadership there, coaching now and everything. It's, when I look back and realise the journey, and really from 2014, which is really when it started, take off. I mean, it wasn't doing an awful lot in those first couple of years. It was probably 2017 when it really sort of started hitting some decent sales figures. So it's really just the last 3 to 6 years that this business has really bedded in and grown. And you just look back and think it's incredible, really.
It is.
I always knew, even from the early days, there was potential. And I knew that I could do it. Other people were doing it, so I knew it was possible. But it wasn't really till it started clicking in and you started sort of seeing figures and people started taking notice. You know, when your friends suddenly see what you're doing and you're actually, you know, earning some decent sales and getting an income from it, that it almost becomes a legitimate business.
That's awesome.
So it'd always been there in my heart. I always knew it would work, but then suddenly you look back and you realise it is working, and you think, "Wow, this is incredible." But when you look back, it has been a long, slow journey.
For sure.
Before I said, you know, I'm just a happy plodder. You know, I go from bit to bit. I'll keep, you know, I'll put my head down when the wind starts blowing against you and it starts getting icy cold out there. You just put your head down and keep battling on, and that's how it's like sometimes in business, isn't it? There are days when you can stand and look out on the top of the mountain and you see the sunshine and the hills and it all looks glorious and wonderful. And hopefully that's what it will be like at the end of Q4 this year. And there are days when you just have your head down and you've got to go uphill a bit and, you know, it's hard work and you keep plodding away at it. And I really feel that's been my journey. It's been a long, slow process looking back. You know, I know from hearing other people's stories, it's very easy to look at those and think, oh, wow, it's so easy for them. It's just happened. You know, suddenly they're doing these crazy numbers and isn't that one lucky for them, but it's never going to happen for me. But I was always used to be in that. I used to look at the people that were having success stories in the group and thought, oh, wow, if only I was doing those sort of figures, you know, is it ever going to happen for me? Is it really going to happen? You know, I know it can, but it never really happens for me. And, you know, that's been part of my story for a lot of my life. I've looked at a lot of my contemporaries and they've all had sort of high-flying jobs with big salaries and big company cars and things, and enjoyed a lot of the trip trappings of that sort of lifestyle. We've just plodded along doing our bit, you know, trying to stay faithful to what we believe God was calling us to do in some of the things. And we've made certain conscious decisions that meant we didn't go down those routes chasing, you know, the big jobs and the big paychecks. And we've stuck to that. But I think, you know, we can now look back and think, hey, God's brought us through quite an amazing journey. And he's been faithful. I've stuck at it. You know, that's probably my part is I've made sort of stickability and plodding along, getting at it. My wife calls it stubbornness, which a lot of it probably is. But I think that's one of the characteristics that we need in this business is just that ability to stick at it, to keep going when it's tough, to keep doing what we know works, and it grows and it will come. So I think, that's one of the things particularly for people is keep at it. I know, you know, when you're starting out, it is tough. And I do remember, you know, I was there. I was thinking, is this going to work? Is it really going to work? Is it ever going to be enough? Or am I just, you know, putting in more time and effort for nothing? And at the end of the day, I'm going to have to go back out and get a job, which was always my fear.
Was there a point in your journey where you remember making the mindset shift from, is this going to work, to, yes, I can see this is going to work, this is working, and I'm going to continue doing it? Was there some type of line in the sand you had to draw, or was it just a matter of keep plodding along, keep doing the work, and suddenly you look up and you're like, wow, this is working for me?
I think you know, it has been a bit of that sort of just keep plodding along, and I knew that if I kept going, it would grow. I didn't really ever expect it or believe that it was going to grow to the size it has, to be honest. But I think I always knew it was going to work. I think it was towards the end of 2017, I actually joined the coaching program, and I got coached with Jeff Thompson in the UK, who's a great guy, very good What he did for me really was not so much necessarily helping me with the Amazon side, but he just got my mindset and my business structure a lot better organized. I'm not the greatest organized person, as anybody that knows me would say, but he just helped me to think about it as a business. I think because of the way the business had grown and my experience over certainly the eBay days, it was very much a sort of a hobby or a side hustle, as you call it these days, that sort of, contributed a bit and paid a little bit. It wasn't a business that was supporting me. And I think Jeff helped me to change my mindset in that respect. And said, no, look, if it's going to be a serious business, you've got to think about it as a serious business. He helped me to put certain things in place and structure to do that. Okay. So I think really from then it did start to grow. And then I think when sometimes you have to also take a few risks. And there's been a few points where I've made decisions and some of these decisions are quite scary. Taking on my first hire of somebody was a big decision. Sure. I can remember thinking, do I really want to go down this route? I'd always said, I don't want to grow a business with big offices and lots of staff. I don't want to have all the problems of having staff and buildings to manage. I just want a business that I can run from home, gives me the flexibility to do the other things in life that are important to us, to be involved with the family, to be involved with the church, to do the fostering that we were doing. And, I just wanted to be able to support myself and my family in being able to do that. And there's sort of come key points in the business where we've sort of almost had to make a decision. And I was thinking about it's probably 3 or 4 times when we've actually said, okay, do we want this business to grow anymore? Or are we happy to almost cap it where we are? We can cope with what we're doing at this level. Do we just cap it here and keep on at that level? Or do we want to grow the business and move to the next level? And I think each step I've just really found, I really felt that almost there's a responsibility to take this as far as it goes. I do believe it's a process that God's been with me on, and He's encouraged me to help me and given me the resources and the people around me, certainly in the community, that have supported and encouraged me over the years. And I just feel that there is potential here for it to grow, and I want to grow it to a level that we can still cope with it. But let's see where it goes. And I think when we've got to the point where I need to hire somebody in, that was quite a big moment for me. It was actually my pastor's wife who was my first hire. She was looking for some work, and we were chatting to her, and I said, actually, almost the pain point for me at the time was actually going out and doing the shopping, doing the sourcing, going to the shops and stores and getting all the replens, as we call them now. We call them replens those, and doing that. And I was spending so much time going out and doing those because they were the things that were selling, that I wasn't spending a lot of time growing the business or even getting it packed and prepped and sent in, because I was spending so much time buying it because it was there and I wanted to get it in, and then it was a struggle to try and get it all prepped and sent into Amazon. So I knew that if I could offload that bit, that would help me. And she started, I think it was beginning of October in 2017. And you can see from the sales graph that, I know it was Q4, but the sales really did shoot up. And it's really because sending her out doing the shopping, I gave her a list, and I went a couple of times with her and showed her what I was looking for and how to find things and where to buy them. But I basically gave her a list of what I wanted. She went out, and it meant I was able to get a lot more sent in during Q4 than I had done the previous years. So the sales really did rocket because it freed up my time to do a more important task. And now each time as we've grown, it's been bringing in people to free up more time to do other things.
That's awesome.
That's how it's grown over the last
Love
few
that.
years.
Well, going back to what Jeff Thompson was helping you with, the mindset, talk to that person that's where you were, and what are some of the things that Jeff helped you get over in your brain that made you treat this like a business? What are some of those tips that you can give us?
Yeah, I think it's very easy when it's sort of almost been hobby status to a small business, you almost let a lot of things slip. I think, the listings I was creating were okay. I was trying to make them as good as possible, get reasonable photos and write, good bullet points and things. But when we actually analysed them and looked at them, they were still quite amateurish. The photos weren't as good as they could be, because I was really just trying to get the listing up, because it was a time issue, a lot of it. And so we went through that. We went through, looking at the keywords and how they affect a listing, the quality of the photos, making sure they were better, putting in things like having a warranty or guarantee on there. So even if it's not your product, if you say that you can guarantee that the customer's going to be satisfied or they'll get their money back, which they would on Amazon anyway, but just by saying that in there, and to actually create a little sort of guarantee certificate that I put in all my listings. Right. Now it just says, we want you to be happy with this. If there's any problems, you contact us, and you can have your money back. I said, so few people will take you up on that, and those that do would anyway through the Amazon system. So You're not really losing anything, but it just makes it a bit more business-like, a bit more of a good impression on the customer that you're reliable, that you're trustworthy, that you're somebody that they can trust and deal with. So it's just really getting those sort of things over, looking strategically at each part of my business. And Jeff helped me to break down the business into each of the separate categories, and to spend time writing in a journal about how we were going to develop that business, what the problems were, what the issues were. Because I think really, and the sort of person that I am, I tend to hold all these things in my brain, and I always have so many things, as most of us entrepreneurs do, flying around our heads. I've got ideas coming out, thoughts, I've got to do that, I've got to do that. Oh yeah, I need to look at that, I need to think about that. So you're trying to say, look, get it down on paper in your little notebooks, and then you can actually sit back and analyse it. Yeah, and I think that's the part of the process that I was starting to do, and it really made a difference, because it was looking at that from that perspective that made me realise that I needed to bring somebody in to do the shopping for me, and then somebody else in to do the prep work. So releasing those then gave me more time to send more stock in, is what I was doing. And then as the business grew, bringing somebody in to do the shipping into Amazon, so that I could step back and do other parts of the business. So it's just really looking at it as a business.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the things that in this business that people should be focusing on? Because you were so right. You could spend hours on the back end of your Amazon account creating cases for reimbursements. You could be tweaking listings. You could be taking a course on taking better photos. There's just so much. Help us boil it down to some of the main let's cut through the overwhelm for a lot of people. What are just to boil it down to the 2 or 3 things that they have to do, and focus on those, and kind of everything else will either take care of itself, or that you can, hire those things out.
Yeah, well, I think that's an important concept, and I know Jim often says, only do the things that only you can do, and that's one of the things I've had to learn, is to let go of some things. Again, being a business owner, you tend to want to be in control of everything, and that just takes up so much of your time. So you've got to be willing to let things go, and I think you need to just boil it down to what are the core important things. Obviously, if selling on Amazon is your main business that you're growing at this time, then the priority really is getting stock and sending it into Amazon. Whether you're jumping on other listings, whether you're creating listings, that's all obviously a part of it. And I think particularly for new sellers coming in, I think I do see a lot of people that spend an awful lot of time looking at the business and trying to get everything in place, trying to, do they need to set up a company? Do they need to set this up? Do they need to have this in place before they start? And the way I'm trying to help people that are starting out in the business is say, look, we just need to get going. Yes, there are certain things you need to do, but actually the priority, if you want to sell things on Amazon, then the priority is to get things, find them, send them into Amazon and sell them. And once that process has started, then you can build around that and grow the business. and spend time doing the other things that you need. So it's keeping focused on what the priority is at that time. And when you're starting, I think the priority really is, okay, I need to find some stock that I can sell. I need to send it into Amazon. So I can learn that process of sending it into Amazon if that's the way you're going. And then after that, there's all the other things that you can look at. And then as your business grows, it's actually allowing yourself to release those things that you don't need to be doing anymore. It made such a difference when I had my first lady that came work with me. It really did release me, and it almost felt like a burden was lifted at that time. It was a bit crazy. It was a learning curve, and it was a bit uncomfortable at the time, but just began to release that to somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think looking back, things maybe that I would do differently is actually letting go of some of those things earlier. I never want to spend money that I don't have to, but there are some things that I just shouldn't be doing, like, paperwork and accounting is not my forte. And, unfortunately, having gone on for so long without getting that organised, we're still catching up in many respects with some of that. So I would have got other people in to do that a lot sooner. Looking back on it, and it is an investment. And one of the things I said when Kaz started working with me is, I'm not paying you this isn't a wage. From my perspective, what I give you is an investment in my business.
Yeah, it is.
And that was quite almost revolutionary for me to say that. She found it very revolutionary and freeing as well. That I wasn't just looking on her as an employee or somebody that was an expense that I needed to get benefit from, but actually she was an investment in my business, and she really was. And that's how I look at each of the staff members I bring in now. They are an investment in my business to help me to grow. I think whether it's bringing in accounting services, whether it's paying for people to do various jobs or paying for software to do various jobs. When you're starting out, you don't need all that. People say, well, do I need this software? Do I need that software? There's very little software you need. The Amazon Seller app and Keeper really are the only two essentials, I would say. Other software do good jobs and they're helpful, but we don't need to focus on those when you're starting out. You really just need to get the basics and get out there and start. And then once your business is growing, then you can add other things in and you can build your business and grow from there. Keep it focused on what the important thing is at that time.
Yeah, which is it comes down, if you're selling online, your main job is to get inventory to sell online. Just find more inventory. So it's interesting. You said you can look at a graph of your sales and see that point where you hired each of your staff and see how your business has grown from it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's
each step, like I said, there's been certain sort of key points where we've had to make that decision.
Yep.
And then having made that decision, it does affect the sales, exponentially. We were running this business from our back room. We've got two sort of living rooms in our house, and we were running it from the back room when Kaz started working, because it had sort of outgrown the shed that we built. It was just getting more and more stocking for Q4 that year. And so we were building it there and said, it will just be for Q4, then January we'll move back out. But January came and it was still quite busy and we never moved out. So really the whole of that next year we were running it from the back room of our house, which was okay. We could still work around it, but it was just getting more and more uncomfortable.
Sure.
And so we then took the decision, okay, well, what do we do? How do we grow the business? Are we going to, keep it at this level, or cut it back a little bit so we can keep it here, or are we going to do something? And so we decided to, we had an old garage next to the house. It was quite a long sort of tandem garage, which really wasn't very nice, wasn't suitable for storing things in. It was cold and damp. So anyway, we decided that we knocked that down, and we've had a purpose-built room built, which is actually where I'm sitting at the moment, which is still called the prep room. And that was done about 18 months ago. So that will last us for a few years, and then we can see how it goes.
Sure.
It's a lovely facility, and long term we can use it for all sorts of things. But it was primarily built from the profits of the business which was lovely to be able to do. I didn't have to borrow money. I didn't have to worry about where money coming from it. It came straight from the business. And so we moved everything out of the house into here. So we had a couple of prep tables in here. I had sort of about 3 people working part-time with me at that time. And doing that enabled the business to grow quite significantly. And that was, so about 18 months ago. And so we did last Q4 in here from here, which helped us to do a lot more. Just we had more storage space, we had better facilities, it was more professional, more business-like. It just made things run smoother. And then by after Q4, we thought actually already we're stretching here a bit. And then the COVID-19 stuff happened in sort of March, where we had the lockdown, and we'd obviously been growing it trying to grow since Q4. It'd been a very busy Q4, but we wanted to keep that momentum going. So I was trying to consciously build up my stock levels, because one of the issues we were having was we'll keep selling out of our sort of best-selling lines. And even with a couple of shoppers and a couple of packers coming in, it was difficult to keep up with it. So we were consciously trying to grow that, and I was doing more wholesale business as well, trying to get what I could. And then what we couldn't get, we were still getting retail. Mostly, but we were growing that. And so I was consciously trying to increase my stock levels. And then obviously with the lockdown and everything, sales just went through the roof. And I was so pleased. All the stock levels that I've been building up got wiped out. It wasn't so easy to get stock, but because I had accounts with wholesalers, although they were struggling to get some things, they were able to get some bits and pieces. So we were able to keep having deliveries. Even though they weren't quite what we always wanted or quite as regular as we wanted, we were still growing. But it soon became apparent that even this facility was too small. So sort of last June, about June, July, we started looking around at what else was available, which wasn't easy because we were still in lockdown. But we were able to look at a couple of places, a couple of sort of warehouse type places around. And that's when we started talking to the folks at our church building. We've got a big community centre that has been hired out for functions, and it's been quite well used over the years that we've had it. A lot of companies and health services use it for conferences or for meetings or for all sorts of things. But obviously during lockdown that had all stopped. So that meant that the income that the church was getting from that and to pay the mortgage and things had all suddenly dried up. So they were saying, well, look, if you're looking at somewhere, would our facility be of use to you? And initially I said, well, not really. It's not a warehouse. It hasn't got a loading bay. It's not really ideal. But then I went in there and we looked around and thought, well, it's not perfect, but we could make it work. There were certain advantages to being in there.
Sure.
So last July we decided to move the business from home. So really only a year later, after having this wonderful place built, we moved it all out from here into our church building at the community centre. And I hired one of the rooms there, which was probably a slightly bigger space than what we've got here.
That's awesome. So that's a win-win. So I bet you got a good deal, and you also helped your church out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so, it was probably about what I was going to pay anyway for a warehouse type place. But I didn't haggle too hard because I thought, yes, it's an investment in the business. It is an expense, but I was looking at it as an investment to help us grow, and it helped the church out as well. So that was good. So we moved in there last July, and again it was wonderful. You just breathe again. I think, we've got space. I've got more racking in there and got more ability to store things, and so we've sort of been growing from there. It was still fairly busy, and obviously as we've been getting closer and closer to Q4, it's been growing again. And then when we went back into lockdown a few weeks ago, they actually came to me and we sort of talked about and half joking about hiring a second room there. And I said, well, I don't really want to pay out for a second room. I'd love the space, but I can't really justify that. And they came to me and said, look, we're not going to be getting many bookings. There's still a few things coming in, but not getting much income. If you'd like another room, we can do it. We can do a deal for you. So they did
wonderful.
a second room. So we've actually just moved into a second room, which we're using for storing all the extra stock
My
coming in.
gosh.
And again, that's made a difference, just giving us a bit of space and a bit more breathing space to work again. And we've put an extra prep table in there. So it means I've actually taken on 3 new staff part-time.
Wow.
Weeks. So we've got people in there now all the time. It's covered with 2 or 3 people working all the time as well as us.
That is awesome.
And it's grown, yeah.
Pretty soon you're going to be taking over the whole church.
But it's almost a bit of a family business because quite a few family members actually work there. I mean, my son has been sort of the administrator there and working. My son-in-law just recently started actually as manager of the centre. So it's a bit of a family business. So yeah,
I love that. And you know what? I love what you said. And I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say it that way, but that hiring somebody was an investment in your business. It obviously is, but I don't know that I've ever heard it put that way.
Yeah,
and that it is your business.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit of a mindset issue.
It is, yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I've almost have struggled with over the years and I've had to overcome is, if I'm looking at this as a business, then, when I have expenses and things, how do you look at that? I remember the first time I actually got a pallet load of cardboard boxes delivered. When I started out, I was going to the supermarkets and trying to get free cardboard boxes. Sure. We don't get free boxes from UPS, unfortunately, so it's not quite as easy over here. So I was getting cardboard boxes from the supermarkets. I was, when people had moved house, I was collecting up all their old boxes and using those as much as I could. But then it got to the stage where that wasn't sufficient. I wasn't getting enough boxes. They weren't the right size and things. So I started buying boxes online, and I'd have, a few packs delivered here and there. And the first time I had a whole pallet load of cardboard boxes delivered, I looked at it, and on the one hand you thought, my goodness, I've just spent several £100s on cardboard, which is just going to be recycled and wasted. But then on the other hand, I thought, that's a great sign. My business is growing. I'm now having my packaging supplies delivered by the pallet load. Yes. That was quite a big moment. And I think I've got a photo somewhere of it sitting outside, my first pallet of cardboard boxes. It felt good. And I thought, actually, that's a good sign.
Yes, it is.
When I have to put in orders for, whether it's cartridge ink for the printer or labels or something, or boxes and bags. Sometimes you look at that and think, goodness me, there's a lot of money. I'm thinking I spend a lot of money because we're making a lot of money now.
Yeah.
It is an investment. I can't do the business without it. So the more money I spend on plastic bags means the more money that the business is going to be making, or the bigger the business is growing.
Yes.
So I think it very much is about your mindset and how you look at that. And I think with people that I brought into the business, it's the same. And I think it was a conscious thing that, I'm not looking at these as an expense.
Right.
And this person is costing me this much. Am I getting value from that?
Right.
I'm investing in this person. And that's been one of the real joys that we've had of growing the business, is that we've been able to bless people around us that needed work. So far, all the people that have worked with me have been people that I've either known directly or sort of relations of friends. We've just got a first cousin who's the brother-in-law of a friend of my daughter's. I think I hadn't met him before, but I didn't really know him. But everybody else has been people that I've known directly. And to be able to offer them the opportunity and the flexibility, and they all say, oh, it's so good working with you because you're nice and flexible. That's the sort of person I am. We try and be fairly business-like, but I like to be flexible and work with them. And they can work the hours that they want to. I'm almost just grateful that they can. And it encourages and blesses them, obviously, and it's helping me to grow the business.
That's so neat. I'd say it's the same way with courses too. Sometimes it's hard to spend money on a course, but every time I do, it's like, wow, that was worth it. And as long as you put it into practice and use something you learn from it, it's an investment.
That's a big difference. I mean, I've spent, again, a lot of people say, oh, we spent so many thousands of pounds or dollars on course over the years. I don't like to say how much I would have spent because somebody might hear. But I spent far too much on courses, but most of them were very good. Just that I never put them into practice. So for me, they were worthless. They weren't an investment. They were money down the drain because I did nothing with them. So so that's how I try and look at things now. I look at it and think, okay, is this going to help me grow my business? Do I need this now? It may be a wonderful offer, but if it's not something I need now, or it's not a piece of software that's going to help me right now, then I don't need it. And we need to be disciplined.
That's great advice. Wow. You've already thrown out a lot of advice. Anything else as we wrap up here? Any other advice you'd say to people that are a lot farther behind you or just starting out in this business?
Well, I think it's just that consistency, and you've got to keep going on, keep on. It is hard in the early days. I do know, and I know things change, and I look at it now and think, oh, actually, I'm glad I started when I did, because in some ways it was a bit easier then. There's a lot more restrictions than maybe now, but actually people are still doing it. We're still getting a lot of success stories in both the MST group and Legends and everything. A lot of good success stories coming through that shows this is a business that can work. And what I love is that it's ordinary people that are doing it.
Right.
There are a few people out there, and I think, wow, they must have a pretty massive brain to be able to get their head around that. But most of the folks in the group, we're pretty ordinary people. There's nothing special about us in a sense. You've just got on with it and carried on. And I think that's what you've got to do. You've got to be fairly sort of dogmatic and stick at it. Be persistent. But reach out to people. Create those relationships. Whether it's in the Facebook groups, in Legends, whether it's forming small groups with people, in your country or locality, just build relationships, because it's those things that will encourage you when it is tough. Having people that you can call on to give you some encouragement and advice, or just saying, yeah, I know what it's like, I've been there, but persevere and keep going. There will be ups and downs. There's certainly if you're working with Amazon, there's always going to be frustrations and things that just don't make sense, and ridiculous things that they do. We have those on our almost daily occurrence, but you just don't let them get you down. There's always a way through it. There's always an opportunity through that. So stick at it, do it step by step. Don't try and run straight away, but just get going. That's the main thing. Is to get started and move. It's much easier to steer a ship when it's moving.
That's right. Ooh, that's great advice. Much easier to steer a ship when it's moving than when it's not. That is absolutely right. Wow. Lots and lots of awesome advice, Neil. Thank you so much for doing this. You've got a wealth of wisdom, and I love what you said. I love that visual of just burying your head down sometimes. Yeah, sometimes it's easy. The wind's at your back, and you feel like, wow, I can run so fast. And there's sometimes when you just have to bury your head down, and the rain, the sleet, maybe snow, and the wind's pushing against you, but you got to keep going. And those times you may not advance as fast, but as long as you keep putting one foot forward on one foot over the other, then you're going to get there. So I love that.
Yeah. Do something every day that's going to move your business forward.
Do something every day that's going to move your business forward. That's so
getting
true.
Something listed, or getting something prepped ready to send in, or going on and finding another product, or even just talking to somebody. Start a conversation with somebody, ask them that, or just encourage somebody. Just do something every day that's going to help you and your business move forward. Yes.
Guys, so much. I'm taking notes here. There's so much wisdom that he's just downloading right here.
Yeah, I mean, it's all things really that I've picked up just from being around this community, really.
Sure.
A lot of it is life stuff that we've done over the years. We've been through many things. We've been involved with fostering for the last 15 years, and that's been some incredible ups and downs. We've had some really tough times, and we've had a lot of joyous times and successes. And that's how life is.
That's
And
exactly
so,
right.
all these experiences of what we gain from that journey. So whether it's the online journey and just being alongside people in the group that are, that's what I love about the Facebook group. Is it's always such an encouraging, positive, vibrant environment. There's
Right.
always lots going on there, lots of conversations going, and they're usually positive and encouraging.
Yes.
I've been involved with other groups where that's not been the case.
Right.
That is something very special about the communities that we're in. So
It is.
my Silent Team Facebook group and Legends, particularly, it's such a great group of people who, I would genuinely call friends, and having the pleasure of meeting many of you now, having been over to the conferences, and obviously you came over to the UK conference. So meeting you guys has actually been really special.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Thanks for all that you do in the groups. Thanks for your friendship. And let's seriously, I'd love to plan something in the UK, even if it's tentative. We should chat offline about that. So Neil, thank you for all that you've done. Thank you for sharing this wisdom with this group, and congratulations on your success, and pray that you just blow out of the water all the goals that you had for 2020. Good job.
It's been a crazy year, but it's good.
That's right.
Thanks.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, have a great evening, my friend. Appreciate you. All right. See you, everybody.